I'm Klaus Flouride from Dead Kennedys. It's time to blast off into the music universe.
Oh, Matt, do you know what Duff McKagan, Billy Joe Armstrong, Dave Grohl, the Circle Jerks, members of Pennywise, Megadeth, The Offspring, and more have in common?
They were inspired by the band of whom this guest we have today is a member.
Yeah. Dead Kennedys, of course, we're talking about.
Yes.
40th anniversary of their seminal album, Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables, has been remixed and it's coming out in September. And you're going to be able to pick this thing up. And we have Klaus Flouride, who's the bassist of the band, with us, chatting about the inspiration behind the remix and just, kind of their history. So it was a really fun chat with him. And
really informative, too. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting to hear that.
So we ask him all kinds of questions and about how this didn't come out 2 years ago on the actual 40th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
Klaus Flouride, bassist of the Dead Kennedys. Welcome to the Music Universe podcast. How are you?
I'm good. I'm as good as you can be.
Great.
That's
awesome.
great.
Well, glad to have you here, and we got a lot to talk about. I know you guys are just remixed a 40-year-old record, and wanted to talk about that and what inspired that.
Well, it is probably the most popular record of ours. It's the first one we did, and when we recorded it, we didn't have a whole lot of studio knowledge and wherewithal, and we basically had produced it ourselves, and it ended up sounding really kind of boxy. And so, the time passed, and it's finally time to see with some better ears and more experienced ears of ours, and the remixer Chris, we decided to try to make it sound better but stay the same album basically.
Mm-hmm. So
sound better. How do you mean sound better? What did you do? What was the goal to get away from that boxiness?
We just made it a little fuller. The whole thing was really mid-rangey, without getting too technical to everybody. There's a curve that went like that. And we made it sort of go like that more. It's just fuller sounding, but everything's the original recording. It's just that we, and Chris especially, knew how to make that sound a little punchier and stuff.
So obviously fans that have the original Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables will obviously be able to compare the two and tell the huge difference if they were to play them side by side.
Yeah, I think we have put out someplace or another the original sketch of these mixes with Chemical Warfare from the album, and you can do that online, I think, if you want to check that out before you go to the album. The other album is still going to be available too, the original mix, so we're not saying this is all that's available anymore.
Right. And obviously when you go to record an album, you probably can't even imagine the impact it's going to have. But 40 years later, you've got so much influence in the punk and pop world, including Dave Grohl, who has a piece inside the booklet.
Yep. Lots of people really like that album, so we're happy with that. When we recorded it, we had a budget of, I think, $10,000 or $12,000, which we did it for about $9,000 and split the rest of the money, and thought that's it. We did an album. Woohoo! That was our big deal for us. We thought it was a good record, but we didn't know exactly at all what would follow.
Right. And it looks like you guys started remixing this before the world went to
Yeah,
hell.
we'd come up with it was supposed to be the 40th anniversary. The record
Mhm.
was released in 80. And yeah, so it made it difficult to do because, for one thing, we couldn't all get in the same room with Chris. And so it was basically Chris sending mixes to Ray and me and us saying, oh, there's a little too much of this, which could have all been done per song within an hour in a studio.
Right.
But as it is, it took days for each thing to happen, and sometimes longer. But it sounds pretty good now, and plus the continuity didn't suffer from all the only thing that suffered was the timeline.
Right. And then you guys have previously unseen images in their extensive essay and contributions from artists like Dave Grohl we spoke about.
Yeah.
What was it like going back and finding those images and just like, oh, maybe I forgot about that, or restoring them for this project that's out September 30th?
It was fun. The funny thing is that thanks to the internet, there's pictures all over of us that are surfacing that it was a learning thing for us. We're just searching around the things and found lots of pictures from back in the era and everything in between. And at the time, I mean, we didn't even have our picture on the record, the first record, the Fresh Fruit, the first release of it. None of the releases had our images on them. So now it can be told.
It's great. Was there an image or a story going through all of that history that sort of stood out to you and surprised you the most to find again?
I tell you, I don't have it in front of me right now, so I can't point out a specific image.
Okay.
So not off the top of my head.
Now, people that know know the history of the band. You guys came from San Francisco's punk scene. How your evolution? I want to talk about that. Your evolution and being involved throughout history. You've played and co-wrote on all the records. The themes of your albums, capitalism, fascism, affluence, and all that. How are they relevant in today's world when you guys wrote them?
Well, unfortunately, the album and the albums still have a lot of relevancy.
Yeah.
And that's sort of a happy problem for us as far as the songs, and the songs also were good songs in that they held up musically too. The social impact and the political impact of what was going on in the world definitely came through in the lyrics, and the lyrics are mostly Biafra lyrics. There's some that things that were changed and stuff, and we even changed California Uber Alles for the In God We Trust Incorporated album, which became We've Got a Bigger Problem Now. So it's just a weird thing that it was topical at the time, but it wasn't so topical as to be stuck in a certain date.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And would you, in the writing processes, would you start with that topicality and the message you want to get across, or did the music always come first?
The music happened sometimes with jams, and then Biafra might pull out a lyric sheet and try and sing something on top of it. Sometimes Biafra would come in with a sketch for a song, with the basic structure of what he wants for the music. Sometimes, so it was an organic thing. The most organic of all the songs was Holiday in Cambodia, was literally put together from when we first were hanging out, Biafra and Ray and myself in Ray's living room, with acoustics and stuff like that. We sort of came up with, like, I was doing something that I wanted to sound Velvet Underground-y on the bass, drone type thing, and I sort of mixed that in with a Led Zeppelin thing. So take two influences, mix them together, and then that was the starting riff for the song. And then, Ray's space, surf, rockabilly sort of stuff that he does with his Echoplex and things. It just all sort of worked together. But first, we didn't even have the Echoplex in the room, so.
I've heard those machines in that day were just massive, right?
Well, an Echoplex wasn't massive. It was about, say, maybe 10 inches by 6 inches or 7 or 8 inches, something like that. It was a box, but it was, it had, being that it had so many moving parts, because it was a tape machine with a bunch of different heads along the way. And each time it would record something, and then each of the heads would be one of the echoes, and you could control that, let's say. And now it can be done digitally, all basically just as well. So that wasn't massive. The tape recorders themselves were and still are massive at times.
Oh, yeah. And
but not as massive as this record. Just kidding.
Wow. And do you prefer the old school type, analog recording to digital?
Originally I did. And I'm more comfortable recording in an analog world. But digital lends itself to editing and gives you freedom of endless tracks you can use before having to erase a track. So it can hurry things up editing. It can slow things down as far as you have almost too many choices. But I think, people argue that the digital isn't as warm as the analog. And a lot of the times I've been in situations where record to analog first and then transfer it to digital to either add more tracks or be able to edit better. But I don't think it loses any of the warmth. When getting technical again, you can hit analog tape really hard, and it makes a warm sort of harmonic, if any distortion. Digital isn't as forgiving as analog is. If you mistreat it.
Yeah, very true. And before we let you go, I do want to talk a little more about your influence. How does it feel for you to just have that influence over like Billy Joe Armstrong and Dave Grohl and just all these guys that are massive rock stars now?
It's hard to wrap my head around it sometimes. I don't think of myself as a rock star, for instance, more of an asteroid. With the emphasis on ass, probably. But it's hard to think that I don't hang with Dave Grohl and I don't hang with Billy Joe Armstrong and stuff like that. I don't know how that would be. So it's like a different world. But we had a lot of influence by, Ray, Scotty Moore, for Ray and stuff like that. And if he was still alive, how would you feel, Scotty, about that you influenced the Dead Kennedys? You'd probably get annoyed, actually. But no, I think it's an interesting phenomenon for sure.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you wanted to add about it?
Not a thing. I think we covered all the territory.
This was fun.
Yeah.
This was fun to dive into it with you, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
right.
Good to be here.
That was
Well, it's the band's classic and iconic punk debut, and it's great that it gets the remaster treatment because you get to just relive the memories of recording it, and you get to turn it around into something and compare it to the original, because I'm sure there's a lot of bands out there who wish they could remix stuff, and maybe they just don't, or have the reasons that they don't. But to have a fresh mix of it and it be out, it's coming September 30th. It'll be released via Manifesto Records. And Chris Flouride, he's one who actually remixed it. So it should be a great listen, and sure fans out there on Twitter and Reddit and everywhere will be giving their 2 cents about the comparisons.
all right. I can't wait to listen to it. For the Music Universe, I'm the Fresh Fruit, Matt Bailey.
And Buddy holding things down on the news side of things. So be sure to check us out at themusicuniverse.com, and be sure to hit like, subscribe, and share on social media, and follow us. It's always free wherever you can get us at tmupod.com. Take care.
You were supposed to say you're the rotting vegetable. See you later.